What's up guys, so this is day one. I've just had my first session. Just to give you an idea of what these are going to look like going forward, most of these sessions are going to be done via Teams meetings. Lockdown has reoccurred in the northeast. We were going to be doing it via team meetings anyway, but it's even more important to do it that way now. Anyway, it's not what you've come for. You wanted to hear about what happened in the first session. So, because it's the program induction day today, it was really just a little bit of an intro as to what's going to be happening with the course, and we ended up talking about something which I didn't expect to be talking about on a teaching course, and that was the game Overcooked. So the reason we're talking about it, if you're unfamiliar with Overcooked, it's a video game designed for couch co-op, so for a bunch of people in the same room all playing together, where under various different scenarios you all have to work together to complete food orders by making sure that everything's cut up, everything's cooked properly, all of the plates are cleaned, and that everything gets away on time. And the reason that we spoke about this, and the reason that it was brought up, the creators of the game had the observation that people often find it a lot more stressful when they have to collaborate with others as opposed to when they're in competition with them, and that's kind of the driving force behind Overcooked. It was interesting because it made us think about collaboration, why that's important, what kind of effect that has. For me, the first thought that came to mind, I'm thinking about how I feel whenever I'm playing games like Overcooked or like Fall Guys. You kind of got two sides to it. So on the one hand, when you're collaborating with someone else, to a certain extent, it doesn't matter how well you do, if the other person doesn't also do well, doesn't pull their weight and do whatever they need to do, then there's still a possibility there for you to fail, which can be very, very difficult to get around. But the other side of that, you also then have the pressure to make sure that you're performing well for someone else, so that then they don't suffer the consequences of you not being able to do what you need to. To a certain extent, competition's a lot easier because you're only looking out for number one. So if anything goes wrong, you only have yourself to be accountable to. Whereas when you're collaborating with someone else, then you're also accountable to them, which makes things a lot more stressful. But ultimately, collaboration is going to be a huge part of this entire process, and of my potential career going forward. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting little way to start things off. Certainly, I didn't expect to be talking about Overcooked on the first day of my teaching journey. So I have two more meetings coming up, and I will check in with you after those. Okay, so just finished the second session there. As expected, a lot of what we talked about was the way that the course is going to go, is going to work going forward in digital platforms, how important digital is, not only to the course that we're on, but to how things will go in the future. I know, sweetheart, I have cats. So, going forward, digital is, I mean, it's been important for a long time, but obviously with everything that's going on, digital is more and more important than it ever has been. Most young people, well, most people in general, have at least one form of digital device, whether it's their phone, whether it's a laptop, whether it's an iPad, that they will rely on day to day. For a lot of people now, Google is king. If you have a question, you ask Google. You don't necessarily ask a friend or family member anymore. You will go to there first. So bearing that in mind, it's going to be important going forward to not only educate people on the subject that you're teaching, but also educate them on how to really use the digital platforms to their advantage. which is kind of what I'm trying to do at the moment by producing these videos, so that I've got my own little log of everything that I've learned, and it just helps me think critically about what it is that I've just done. So this afternoon is going to be a session with my group tutor, and we're going to be talking through just a few little introductory things, getting to know each other, and I will come back to you guys after that. So just completed the final session of the day, kind of a getting to know you session. I won't play the musical there. Well, I might. No, I won't. Don't want to get copyright strike. Yeah, so we covered off. First of all, we started out with an ice-breaking exercise, and then we covered off why those are a good idea, the pros and cons of that. Of course, it allows you to gather a lot of information about a lot of people quickly, and also get them to interact with each other. But there's the downside to that as well. You know, kind of forcing people into a social situation when they might not necessarily want to be in that kind of situation. And you also have the limitations of technology. For me, for instance, the group chat just did not work for me whatsoever. It loaded up maybe 5 or 6 responses and then kaput. So there we go, something I'll have to take on board going forward. But that about covers the most of this first day. I'm aware as time's going on that these vlogs are going to be quite long because I'm covering off quite a bit of information with each one, but I'm kind of hoping that this initial one will be the longest one, because I'm in for 3 days this week. As of next week, I'll be in for just the 2 days, and it won't be kind of fragmented in the same way. So, that being said, on to the next day. So, on to day 2. So the first session this morning has been on subject specialist teaching. My specialist area is going to be media, but also be specialising in SEND, so special educational needs and disabilities. I'm going to have to refer to my notes on this one, because we went through a hell of a lot. So the main crux of it was looking at four big ideas overall. So what really matters in the subject you teach, what's the best balance between online and real-world teaching, what is the best order to introduce topics, and how do I get better at teaching my subject? Very important question. So I suppose the main takeaway for me from all that is looking at making sure that you've got all of the big ideas, all of the main concepts in mind before trying to put anything together, so that you know you're covering off everything that you need to. Looking at the context that things are taught in. Is it easier to teach something face to face than it is online, and looking at those methods there. Again, having to rely heavily on my notes here. Yeah, and so looking at how to get better at teaching my subject, I suppose the one thing that would concern me the most here, it was broken down into 3 parts. So know what, so that's your subject knowledge, so how much you know about the topic itself. Know how, so that's your subject pedagogy, so that's like knowing how best to pass that on, basically how best to teach it, and know where, so like knowing that's your subject curriculum, knowing where to put everything in. So we've been setting an additional task off the back of this to basically go away, find out as much as I can about what those big ideas are that I'm going to be teaching, and to start getting that in my head in preparation for when I start doing things like lesson plans in the weeks going forward. So yes, that was the morning session. I'll catch up with you again after the, well, late morning session. Okay, so for the session that I've just done, it's been all about self-assessment and going over what we're going to be doing throughout the year as regards to looking at our skills, looking at where we are, and setting targets, working out where we need to be going forward. So I have a document that I need to fill in, which I'm not going to share on the screen because it's not really important to the context of what's happening, but it breaks down English, maths, ICT, digital skills, all that kind of thing, as well as subject specialist knowledge. And what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be filling that in, getting an idea of where I am with each section, and a basic idea of what I'm going to need to work on from there. So that was the main crux of what we've just gone through here. I will catch up with you later. Okay guys, so you may have noticed change of lighting, change of clothing. I wasn't actually able to make it into the third session yesterday due to tech problems, so hooray, we all love tech problems. Anyway, so the topic of the session that I've just been in is a very serious topic. It's around safeguarding and prevent. Obviously, an incredibly important thing to bear in mind, and something that is going to be an intrinsic part of my day-to-day role once I start teaching. It's sometimes a bit of an unpleasant reminder that these things do happen, but the unfortunate reality is that they do. Well, we wouldn't have to learn about safeguarding and prevent and all that kind of thing. I'm not going to go into much more detail than that. There is plenty you can find online if you're looking for that kind of support. But yeah, that's just to round up what we did this morning. Okay, so in the second session today, which I'm still getting dings for, we talked about roles and responsibilities, including looking at what attributes a teacher needs to have, the difference between role and responsibility, and also started taking a look at professional standards and how all of that applies. Very active chat room. Also been given a heads up for the first assignment, which is going to be around, just check the notes for a second. Yeah, identify the key roles and responsibilities of a teacher in the education and training sector. I'm pretty sure that it's a longer title than that, but the slide went before I could write it down. I will be able to access it later though, so that's fine. 1,500 words, due in by mid-October. So it'll be the first academic essay that I've written over 6 years, so that'll be interesting. But yeah, one more session this afternoon. That session is going to be about like use of the library and all that kind of thing, so I don't know whether I'll necessarily report back after that, but we shall see. Okay then guys, so that about wraps everything up. As I predicted there, the last session was more about how to use the library. It's not really anything specific that I need to share on this blog. I know, Betty, it's terrible. So, if you have enjoyed this, please hit the subscribe button, and if you would like to leave a like on the video, if you like it, simple enough. Also leave a comment about anything that you would specifically like to see. I'll try and include it if I can, but for the time being, thank you very much for joining me, take care, and I'll see you soon.